So again, doing this adaptive scanning and also optimized greatly how we scan return content, or more importantly, how we utilize CPU and memory content on the appliance and greatly improve its performance. Okay. At cloud security controls, as I mentioned earlier, we have the Cisco ScanSafe security, which has been around for some time now. This gives us all the similar features to what we have on our on-premise ironPort appliance, so we can provide web usage controls, application visibility bidirectionally. So we can not just look at which websites users are going to, but what applications they're going to on those websites. So a user may be allowed to Facebook, for example, but that to use one or two apps on there as opposed to being blanche and accessing anything they want on Facebook. We provide granular web security features on there for our anti-malware point of view and content analysis and script emulation. I'll come on to what those mean in a second, but this is carried out in the cloud and we can provide centralized reporting around this feature, as well as secure mobility. So when we talk about secure mobility, we're really talking about what I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, where users need to be accessing these services from wherever they happen to be, on whatever device they happen to be on. This is where our AnyConnect client comes into the picture, and this is a complementary technology to both our on-premise ironPort content filtering solution and the ScanSafe Cloud solution. If a user has AnyConnect client on their endpoint, which might be an iPad or a MacBook or a Lenovo laptop, for example, the mobility client can automatically see when the user's left the corporate boundary. You can see by the IP address assignment, and from a corporate enforcement point of view, you might want the AnyConnect client to automatically invoke a connection into the ScanSafe Cloud as soon as that user leaves the premises of the organization. So the user may be subject to acceptable use policy while they're plugged into your corporate network. I want that to continue when they leave the network, maybe work from home, work in a cafe somewhere via wireless. And using this AnyConnect client, we can ensure that any ongoing internet activity is subject to your acceptable use policy by pushing it out to the ScanSafe Cloud. We'll do the same thing with the on-premise ironPort security appliance. So if on the right-hand side here, the web security appliance on-premise in the organization, the AnyConnect secure mobility client can auto-invoke a VPN connection and ensure that any traffic from that user is still pushed back into the corporate network and pushed through the ironPort appliance and subjected to corporate acceptable use policy. And that can be automatically invoked on the AnyConnect client, so the user can't turn it off, and the user is subject to those policies wherever they are and whatever device they're on. So again, that's tied together through our architectural approach of tying together these solutions. ScanSafe cloud-based zero malware architecture looks like this. So we have extensive outbreak intelligence, again, which is provided through the security intelligence operation in the cloud. So it's very dynamically updated through our knowledge and our analysts in the SIO. We pass any returned web content, as you can see. So the web page on the left there is ultimately passing content back to the user there over on the right. Further, we're going to analyze the web content and see what kind of content is on that return page, and we're going to pass it through multiple AV scanners, which will block all known malware. The next line of attack from or last line of defense, should I say, is really to look at the individual content types in these. So we've got something quite intelligent on the ScanSafe solution. We've got individual, what we call scanlets, which are optimized mini engines, if you like, which focus on given content types. So we can look at exe files, Java files, PDFs, for example, and all these can be done through an individual scanlet engine to provide a much more granular, lower level analysis from a sort of threat point of view. So we can provide deep content analysis. We can look at the structure of content and analyze that. But interestingly enough as well, we can also do virtualized script emulation. So when we have some JavaScript, for example, we can run that in a sort of virtualized mini engine, which see the outcome of running this script and see if it's malicious content or not. What effect will this script have when it's run on the user's endpoint? So we can provide some very granular and detailed abilities in this layer of defense on the ScanSafe Cloud, which ultimately determines whether something is blocked as a day zero attack to the user. So again, the multiple AV scanners over here might not know about this particular outbreak, but using these extensive low-level filters, which are part of the ScanSafe solution, we can detect day zero activity and block it accordingly, or indeed just allow the content back to the user if it's the case that it's safe enough. Also be running down mode as well. So as well as talking about getting malicious content from the internet into, it could be that the user sending botnet activity back to the cloud, and using the sunlets and the multiple AV scanners in the other direction. We can provide a great degree of filtering as well for any outbound content, which is equally important in many organizations. Intelligence part of safe service, it's something like this. We see about 7 billion requests a day, which is an incredible number. If you add up all the subscribers to the ScanSafe global service, all the IAMPort WSA web security appliances installed on customer premises, all feeding information back into the cloud, that gives a huge breadth of activity which we can view from our security intelligence operation on a daily basis, and turn that into sort of intelligent threat detection mechanisms, and augment our engines and provide the necessary updates to provide the edge really when it comes to threat defense. So again, not to be made, the SIO is underpinning the ScanSafe service as well. Every deployed instance of Cisco security is augmenting SIO on a daily basis. So that is at that of this content security offering. Back to Rebecca to complete the presentation.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. If you pass me the presentation to right, I'll pick up. Okay, so worth just giving you an example of how that would all tie together and what would happen. So just to give you an example, so we've got an individual here. His name's Mr. Borgs, and he's our sort of our target today for one of these sort of malware attacks, and how all of this that Chris has just described, how it would work together and stop this kind of thing. So there he's actually trying to access email on his mobile phone. So we've all got this sort of functionality. I know I do it. And one of the emails he's picked up there has actually got a link to a website, which what we can see here is actually a targeted link, so a targeted attack linked to malware. So you can see there we've got the target information, we've got the context of what this email is, and then we've got that link at the bottom right there to malware. Now using the Cisco Web Security, what happens is that embedded web address gets filtered. So you can see before how the link looks, and then after it's actually getting filtered. And what this is then able to do, the system is then able to say, okay, I identified this to be malware. And this is based on the information from the Cisco SIO, so the Security Intelligence Operations Center that Chris was talking about, that feeds back into back and forth into all of the systems we have sitting out there on work. As a result of this, the web gets blocked from the email. So using the sort of the outbreak filter, Mr. Borges has actually been protected through his email to ensure that malware does not enter the network. So this is what the security architecture is designed to do, using the components and using things like the web and the email solutions from cloud for hybrid and also on-premise to really just ensure that the users, they are whatever they're using, they remain protected regardless of what's going on. Summary of what we've gone through today. The network is changing. We all know that it's changing all the time, but what's happening right now means that it's actually changing the way we are able to do business. And this also means that, of course, it's therefore changing. So we're actually able to take things like email and web security and tailor them and really design them around the network to make sure it's giving the protection that's needed based on sort of what the context of that network is and also what's being used on there. And the whole SecureX platform is really about much smarter protection. So context awareness in each situation and using the intelligence that we've got to make sure we can outsmart the attacks before they're let in. And just sort of slide here, give you an idea of where the systems actually sit in things like the Gartner Magic Quadrants. So both the Cisco systems, both email and web, have been recognized by Gartner in the 2011 Magic Quadrants, email and web security. So you're up there in the top of the leaders section right there. So that's pretty much everything from our side of things today. Probably the last couple of things to mention are the fact with all of the systems, as with most of Cisco, you can eval it. We do run 30-day trials of everything, and they're always the best way to get a real feel for things and understand how it works and whether it's something that you're interested in looking at in much more detail. And that's, of course, something that a team at Systems Architects can discuss you further and help you out with. So at this point, I'll probably to hand back to the team there, so to John and Tony, and also just see if there's any questions, really.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Yeah, so if anybody's got any questions, please, we're unmuted, so please raise them now. If anyone's got questions, we'll wait a few moments. And if not, very much, Chris. Sorry, got a question there?
Yeah, it's Rob from Wilco.
Hello, Rob.
Basically, we've already got the Cisco ASAs. We're not using the botnet.